Star Trek Voyager on the Captain's Couch. Mix your favorite cocktail and join Mark and Matt at Cinema Z to discuss the films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Pour a cup of tea, Earl Grey, hot, and listen to Stephen and Keith as they discuss the next generation of Trek on Galaxy Class. Get yourself something caffeinated and learn an interesting bit of history with Chrissy and Jason on History with the Zalogis. Have a bowl of Flo-Meek soup and join Thad and Chrissy and a guest to discuss new episodes of Star Trek as they are released on Infinite Diversity. Have something to sharpen your mind and put your Trek knowledge to the test with the Treksperts quiz. Take a bite out of something that didn't seem edible and join Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley covering all things in New Trek, including that show that is Trek in all but name, The Orville, on Union Federation. Get your Sunday brunch ready for The View Screen, a live weekly talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy with featured guests talking about all things Trek. Pour a glass of wine and spill some tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea, Bev? And Patreon members get to pass around that green bottle of Aldebaran whiskey once a month on the round table, and they can listen to It's Green with Mark White and Amy's Math Moments.
You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Hello everyone and welcome back, listeners and viewers, whether you're here with us live or listening or watching on one of the replays, to Let's Fly. It's me, Davey. I'm back for another episode, and if this is your first time joining us, this is the BQN's exclusive limited run series, which is recapping each episode of Star Trek Discovery's final season. So, I will warn everyone who is watching live or at whatever point you're watching or listening, spoiler alert, if you have not seen episode 3 of Discovery, Jinaal, stop. Go away. I would not normally discourage the audience like that, but do come back after you've watched it, because we are going to just be discussing it from top to tail. So we don't want to ruin it for you because it's fabulous. So if you have seen it, strap in, because we've got a lot to unpack today, and we've got a great panel of guests here to discuss the episode. Now, just so you know, you can actually be a part of this show. Whether you are, if you're watching live in the chat, type away, interact, share your thoughts with us. We will read them out live on the show. But also, if you are a paid BQN network patron, you can actually be on the show with us. That's right. So if you head over to patreon.com/BQN, there's a link in the episode description, and sign up for as little as $1 a month, you can be on the panel at any week that you like. How good is that? You actually get to be a part of the show if you are a network patron here at BQN, and that is pretty special. So I think we need to dive straight into this, because coming off the back of a pretty epic 2-episode premiere, we've dived into the 3rd episode. We've got a few people waiting in the wings, and I am going to bring them all in now to meet you. Hello, everyone. We've got Amy, we've got Matt Harker, we've got Peter, we've got JJ, and we've got Jim. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Let's Fly. Wow. What a handsome group of people, by the way. Well, this is a pretty good panel today. Now, We're going to talk about Discovery, but there's some other news that we're just going to pivot really quickly if we can. Now, most of you, if you haven't heard the news already, there was some good and some bad news this morning in the last few hours. The good news is that Strange New Worlds was renewed for season 4. We haven't even got season 3 yet. Amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we just stop there and celebrate? We're getting Strange New Worlds, another season.
Yes.
We don't even have this one yet. Like, this is fabulous, good news, because we all love Strange New Worlds. Yeah.
100%. And I think that news is kind of getting diluted a little bit in the other news, which is that there will be a 5th season of Lower Decks, but it will be the last. Oh, Matt, how did you feel when you saw the news? Where were you? Was it like a Princess Diana moment where you always remember where you were?
I was at my desk wrapping up my work day, and I got a text from someone, and it was both announcements at the same time, and it was like a 1-2 punch. It's like Strange New Worlds joy did not deserve the deflation that the Lower Decks announcement, brought with it. And I happened to catch Jack Quaid's personal post on Instagram, and he was just so sad. I think he even said that he could see himself playing Boimler for 17 more seasons. And just knowing that the actors get that much joy, it's just very, very difficult.
They are a beautiful cast, absolutely.
Yes.
And they are so committed to the franchise and the fans. JJ, how has the news hit you today?
Well, I love the news about Strange New Worlds, but Lower Decks was heartbreaking. I love that show. I love the comedy in it. It's a type of Trek that's fun, free, and to see it go and just have 5 years, I don't know. That's just not enough justice for that show, I think.
I agree. And what about you, Jim? Are you a Lower Decks fan? I feel like you are.
Absolutely. I was out for a walk. When I got an alert on my when I got a social media alert on my phone, and it happened to be a post about the post about Lower Decks getting canceled. I literally screamed, "No, that show can go on for another 20 years." Like I am so sad to see it go. Like I was just thinking the other day, we need Lower Decks references in live action, and now the show is getting canceled. Like, ugh.
Do you think? And I'll throw to Peter for this one. Do you think though? We've had 5 seasons. Well, we will have 5 seasons. Do you think that this is a good quality 5-season run? Do you think it's good that we're getting a nice, neat little package that maybe doesn't outstay its welcome? Maybe?
No, I also wish that we had more. I was, growing up watching Star Trek in the 90s, I was just say, 7 seasons at least, with animated form. I thought they could even have it longer because you didn't have to, worry about the actors sort of aging out of the roles and things like that. So I was also shocked when I heard the news today on the social media, and I was surprised because I did expect. That was the one. Picard, we knew it would end, and Discovery found out it would end, but I thought Lower Decks would last longer. So, on the flip side, I guess knowing that it's coming or the end is coming, I think we sort of appreciate what we'll see in season 5 and return and watch the earlier seasons. But I think it is a bit of a shock, I think, within the fandom that it is as short as it is. I guess I'm just expecting Simpsons, maybe not 25 years, but at least at least 7 to 10, with animation, it is a different medium that can last longer. But
And I was thinking about The Simpsons specifically when I framed the question to you that way, right? Because how many Simpsons fans out there go, yeah, it's great up until season 9, and then everything else after that is forgettable. But yeah, look, and I get the vibe, right? The news is still sinking in for all of us because it's only a few hours old. Like, it's 10 a.m. here now in Melbourne. I woke up and saw the news at 6 a.m. Amy, where were you when you found out?
Well, I was actually with some students and trying to manage them and manage the news of what this was hitting me. But to be fair, if we look at Discovery getting its 5th season, it's not really that big of a shock. In part because I just had a friend ask me, because he knows I'm in the Star Trek world. Hey, what is there anything with this legacy going on? And I had a friend send me an article, and I think I posted it on our Discord and the Facebook group. Like, if you read between the lines, there's not anything new yet because there's already so much going on. They're juggling so many shows. The end of Discovery, now the end of this, but we're getting the Section 31 movie. We're getting the Academy show. Like, they've got a lot, and I feel like we just need to trust them. And 5 years is fabulous, or 5 seasons is fabulous. 5 is the new 7. That's what I'm saying.
Someone actually posted that, I think, in Discord.
That was
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Matt, you screwed your face up a little bit then at the "we should trust them" comment. I know you've got something you'd like to interject.
Yes.
Go on.
So, yes, it does seem that 5 is the new 7. But let's think about this. 5 is the new 7 because however many years ago, Netflix set the tone, right? Because Netflix was streaming number 1.
Yeah.
There are shows, on network TV in the US at least, Grey's Anatomy, SVU, whatever.
NCIS, even.
Law and Order.
They're not animated. I get that. They're not using VR walls. I have no idea what those things cost. Prosthetics, all of those things. But those methods of distribution or viewership or what have you are still successful in this age of streaming enough. Grey's was just renewed. It's been on for 20 years. Those actors must be paid so much more than a Jack or a Tawny or whomever. Fine. So, I just think about the model. Is it the proliferation of content in the streaming universe, which is a fire hose and has been for several years now, where it's such a competition for streaming eyeballs and therefore the advertisers that go with them that fund the media, that is causing this shrinkage so that 5 of 10 episodes is the new 7 of 20, thinking in legacy Trek terms. It's a lot more than that. It's 7 of 20 plus to 50.
I feel like we could get an Amy's math moment out of that calculation. But no, I hear what you're saying. And I think for me, Lower Decks has probably been the least divisive of all of the new Trek. I've very rarely, come across anyone who's overly critical of it. Even my mother, who hates a lot of new Trek, love you, Mum, is on board. I have very fond memories of it because it started in 2020 when my city was in the depths of a hideous lockdown. Couldn't go more than 5 kilometers from your home. Couldn't be out of the house for more than an hour a day. Living by myself. And Lower Decks became this beacon in my week. And I'll always remember it fondly for that. I think before we are here to talk about Discovery. and we did need to do a little bit of group healing. Anyone got any last thoughts they'd like to share, or just maybe just on why Lower Decks is so important to them and why this news hurts so much? JJ, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I thought that this show was actually going to go on something as long as Simpsons. I really did. I thought that the quality of the show, the humor, the way they approached it, it both maintained, with the canon, but also explored a little bit with the canon, and it made us laugh. And I love laughing, especially with Trek. So that's really heartbreaking to me.
Anyone else got any final thoughts they'd like to share?
Yeah, I really got to know them in Chicago when they came to the official Star Trek convention there, and just seeing them, interacting with them. It was still new, and they were fangirling and boying over us. They're like, look at you. You guys are so wonderful. It must have been just their first season. And just how much they embraced us and took us in, and then to see them interacting with
Oh
the
God, yeah,
strange
you could
world.
tell like Jack Quaid with the purple hair and the costume.
Yes,
Like, he was in heaven.
He was, yeah. And so again, a lot of it is getting to know the actors and seeing them interact with us that makes the show even more special. So I will always remember that my time with them in Chicago.
Amazing. Now, Matthew Dempsey from the BQM program, The Food Replicator, is in the chat, and it's sort of aligning to your thinking, Matt Harker, around, just saying, don't think that streaming is a viable revenue resource. And I think when you called it the fire hose, right, of content that comes out of these services, look, we could probably do a whole podcast on that. But we are here. We'll let this... Let's let go. Okay, go on. I can see it.
One more last thought. On another podcast that I'm a part of in their Discord, they had a very thoughtful mention of something that could... It's so quirky, it might just work. What if Lower Decks ends and we get Middle Decks? I'll leave you with that.
All right, that's the. Just let that one. Yeah, we'll just breeze away into the wind.
And on a higher note,
Discovery. That's what we're actually here to talk about. So, Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 3, Jinaal. Now, one of the questions I like to ask is, how did you watch? For me, I didn't get to have a viewing party this week. I've had such a busy week. I literally had an hour between finishing my last meeting on Friday and having to go to the football with my fiance to squeeze it in. So it was literally just me and the dog on the couch. Amy, how did you watch? And you've done 2 watches, I think, already.
Yes. And I wasn't here last week. So I do want to answer for last week because I did get to go to a watch party. There was about 12 of us, all local Trekkies here in Vegas. So we did have a fun little watch party. But this week, it was not, Davey, similar to you, it was nonstop. I had a stupid HOA meeting that went on for 3 hours. And if you know an HOA, I'm the president, and it still went 3 hours. And you guys know how on task I like being. So I came home, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness I have Trek to take it away. But I just still had this stress. So that's why I needed to do another rewatch before coming on here. See it with nice, healthy, good emotion viewing.
Excellent. Well, it'll be fresh in your mind then, because you can fill in some of the plot points that I've probably forgotten, given how rushed I was. Peter, what about you? What was your first watch like?
Yeah, I watched it today, a little early today. Watched it once so far. Just really during lunch hour between work, so it's very kind of
Busy
quickly
time.
squeezed it in.
Yeah.
I think nowadays it's trying to just squeeze it in whenever you can. But yeah, but overall it was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're at that point of the year, aren't we, where it's just go, go, go. Like
Yeah.
you get through like the New Year's, Christmas kind of period, and then all of a sudden it's April, and there's
Yeah.
not a lot of time in the day. And Matt, you've I think you've been a little bit busy yourself lately too. You're always here, there, and everywhere. How was your first watch?
My first watch was Thursday morning. I'd had a friend who did a whirlwind trip in from Seattle to the east coast of the U.S. Just to attend a concert on a Wednesday night. And he was on a 7 a.m. flight on Thursday morning. So he had to wake up at 4:30, to get himself together and catch the Uber to the airport. I couldn't fall back asleep after he left. So at 6 a.m., I was up watching not Lower Decks, watching Discovery. But that's kind of my new Trek tradition during an active season to wake up early so I avoid spoilers during the day if I happen to catch a glance at social media. So I watched it, and then I have had a second rewatch since last night. I just needed to power down from a stressful work day. And Amy, we have to have an entirely separate conversation because I was president of my condo board for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. Let's talk.
Okay, I think I just figured out what a HOA meeting is from what,
Yes.
from what Matt just said. I think we would call that a strata meeting in Australia. But yeah, I get the vibe now. I was like, I'll ask later. JJ, what about you?
I actually watched it for the first time just a little bit ago. This week has been very busy work-wise, so that was my as soon as I could watch it after work today, I sat in my theater room and watched it.
So it'll be fresh in
Which
your
is
mind as well, yeah.
Yeah. It's an
Yes,
amazing
totally.
theater room.
I was about
Just
to
gonna put that
theater
in.
room. Dropped
Yeah.
that one in. It's a little bit of a humble brag.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And Jim, what about you, mate?
I've only done one viewing, but I had to split it up into two separate. I did like the first half when I was on break at work yesterday, and then the second half at when I got home that night.
Wow.
Oh, that's almost
That's tough.
sacrilege for me on a first viewing. Because for me, the first viewing is like you only ever get to watch it for the first time once.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, it's just like with other people here. Fit it in when and where you can.
Absolutely, yeah. I have a very dear friend who is just as mad about Star Trek as we all are. He refuses to go to viewing parties or anything like that because he doesn't want the noise, the chatter, anything like that. He just wants focus and to just absorb it all, which is cute. But then every now and then he does try to come to a viewing party, and he leaves saying, "I'm never doing this again." Love you, Glenn. And in the chat, we've got, I think that's Haven as Section 31, watched it on their iPad. Haven, that could be me in a couple of weeks' time because I've got, midway through the season, I've got 2 weeks of work travel to the UK. So I'll either be watching it on planes or in hotels, and we'll probably be doing this show from a hotel as well. But we'll see how we go. All right, so we've all watched, which is good. That's why we're here. Initial reactions. We've always got it. You always kind of leave like this is very different coming off 2 very exciting premiere episodes, and Discovery does this a lot. Amy, I listened to you on All Good Things yesterday on my way to work, and you talked about like every season we get these big some cinematic openings and then pulls back, pulls right back. And I'll go straight to you, Amy. How is that shift in tone sitting with you?
I'm really enjoying the tone. My second watch, I felt like it was a Strange New World. It felt a very nice episode, beginning, middle, and end. Still has the big story arc of what are we finding, and I really stand out to Wilson Cruz. His acting and playing a whole nother character. I was 100%, that was a different person. Like that stood out to me. The relationship, which we are going to talk about, Saru and Tarina, but how Tarina handled it all with Saru, amazing. And I just make sure that we come back to that. But the tone, it's feeling nice and fun. And the Booker and Burnham, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, what? I guess now we'll go. Oh, and when Burnham pulled out the thing from Booker's leg, totally took me back to Beyond with Spock and Bones when he did the same thing.
Yes.
I got that vibe from it because she, pulled it out and zapped it, and just like Bones did to Spock. I was like, I'm loving all these Easter eggs and just tie-ins that just come naturally. They're finding their legs in this season. And it's sad it's their last.
I know. I just want to, before I pass to someone else, I just want to touch on the Wilson Cruz comment, because I love it when one of the actors on Trek is clearly having a good time with something else they get to do. And the comment, wow, this guy really works out. Killed me. Absolutely. And I was like, I wonder if that was Wilson Cruz ad-libbing and they just kind of left it in.
Wonder?
Go, Matt. How are you? What are your initial reactions like?
I would say that this one was not my favorite in the scheme of Discovery.
Fair enough.
Of the plot lines, I would say I was more, acknowledging Wilson's opportunity to shift and play something different, which was great. I think I enjoyed the Tilly and Rayner plot line more. And, there's the kind of the C plot of it all, Adira and Gray, which in other conversations has been quite controversial.
Oh, we could have an entire separate podcast episode just about the Adira and Gray story.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. But I'm okay with how that went. And if I had to, the A, the B, the C plot line, A being the away mission, B being Tilly, C being Adira and Gray, I think my favorite was probably Tilly and Rayner.
Interesting.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. JJ, how about you?
So I actually really enjoyed the episode. One of the things I love about Discovery is how deep it goes into kind of like the emotional state of us. That's something that we didn't really experience in traditional or original TNG, et cetera, right? But Discovery doesn't hold back from that. So I love that they explore the emotional side of things and they have those deep, meaningful conversations. They bring up some conversations that, I think, especially towards the end, right? Connection, like Rayner and needing to build that connection with the crew and then not really doing that. Although that kind of felt a little predictable. It did hit home, right? Because I walked away from that episode with, the underlying story being about connection for everybody. So and across all the plot lines. So.
Yeah, and I'm kind of there with you, right? There are a lot of people who don't appreciate how much Discovery goes into feelings and human emotion. And I'm like, Star Trek's always been about the human condition, right? And it's normalizing a lot of conversations around, it's always diving into mental health and the intricacies of relationships. And there's even a wonderful comment in there from Gray at one point where they're breaking up, where Gray says, well, there's all kinds of different relationships we can try. I was like, "Ooh, I loved that!" Like, oh,
Yeah.
what a great little Easter egg in there. You know, and not really made a big fuss about. And Adira's just kind of like, "Well, no, this is my kind of relationship, and this is the one I want." That was really beautiful.
Yep.
Jim Haven would love to have an Adira and Grey podcast with you in the chat, which so you two can talk and get that one set up. But it sounds like you've got some thoughts on the episode too, Jim. What have been your initial reactions?
Oh well, I did like the episode for the most part. Like Rainer and his 20 words or less.
Till he ran out, thankfully.
Yeah, like, oh, that's 19. Oh, I'm done.
So funny.
Yeah. And of course, also you had like what was it, Pollard, who like was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. There's better things I should be doing in sick bay. I'm out.
Or Reno when she's like, last time they gave me some chips.
Yeah. Of course, Linus was my favorite. Linus was my favorite.
Oh yes, with the
Talking about like the mating processes of the Saurians.
so funny. Really, really. I mean, there's been some very well executed scenes like that, right? Like,
Yeah. But as much as I love the scene, the part I didn't like about that, like, Owo and Detmer. Seriously, like they couldn't bring those two in for just like that one scene.
Where were they?
Yeah.
Where were they?
Like, there was a whole brand new bridge crew. Who, where, or why am I getting introduced to new ones? Sorry, that I.
No.
Well, at least
I
with
saw
Nilsson,
you.
At least with Nilsson, they explained she's not on the ship. She's not on the ship anymore. She's off on voyage. She's off on Voyager on new journeys. But which I was a little sad about because I liked the character. But still, at least they explained that. Oh, and Detmer, no explanations. They're just not there.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, no, but like I love, like obviously, like I love the Rainer story, the Rainer Tilly plot, like, and then and then the Burnham and the whole Burnham on the planet thing, amazing as always. And if Wilson Cruz doesn't get nominated for an Emmy Award, which he probably won't, it will be a crime, I swear.
Yeah.
It was very cool. And finally, Peter, how about you? What have been your initial reactions?
Well, actually, a lot of my initial reactions have kind of already been covered. So I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the kind of like I was thinking like the greatest hits, like a record greatest hits, because I think after 3 episodes, we visited Trill with this episode. Last week we had another planet. I think next week we'll have, I think they mentioned a planet in the Zenkethi space. So I think as part of the treasure hunt, we'll be sort of visiting different parts of the quadrant of Alpha, Beta, Gamma. But somewhere we'll be visiting. So I kind of like that style, and I wish they could have done this a little bit earlier, because especially maybe for season 3, because in season 3, I think there was in season 4 there was sort of a focus on the sort of the problem of the season. But here we kind of revisit Trill after DS9, and we got a lot of callbacks to those episodes with the Jadzia or Esri. So I kind of see it more like a sort of a greatest hit season, in which we'll be sort of visiting and returning to some of the scenes that we've seen in the past. So so I kind of got that vibe with this with this episode. And maybe next week we'll find out. I don't know if it'll be true or not, but if it does happen, I think that would be a plus, and I think that I would enjoy that type of story.
Matt Harker, you are bursting at the seams to say something.
I have to say this. I feel like if we had this season 5 in terms of the tone, the pace, the race of it all, if season 5 had taken the place of season 3, we would be in this cancellation situation that we are now in. Controversial thought.
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. I've like episode 1 and episode 2 were so good, and this this Indiana Jones chase
Mhm.
vibe. If it had come earlier, because season 2 was such a powerhouse, to go from non and yum yum with Giorgio, loved it. I just have to wonder. We'll never know. Yeah.
It's heavy
Thanks
on
for making
the
it
Easter eggs, and
Very.
in a way that I think it's trying to sort of bring back. Okay, we've jumped forward like 800 years from the most furthest point into the future we've seen. So let's just sort of start picking up all the little threads of where some of those, different races and stories have kind of developed in a way. So let's start to sort of work our way through the plot a little bit, right? So the show opens, we know we're going to Trill, and then we start to dive immediately into, there's always these scenes which are, let's solve the puzzle, right? There's all these little hidden things here and there, right? And the first thing we get is the spots. So we get the spots that were on the side of the little puzzle piece. I can't remember exactly what they're called. I'm just going to call them puzzle pieces. Which match? Was it Jinaal Bix was the name?
Yes.
Yeah. And so they're
And
like,
we learned something new about the Trill.
yeah,
That's
they
very
don't
awesome.
live forever. The symbiotes have.
Oh, I was referring to the fact that their spots are like fingerprints.
Yes. I thought we'd heard that
that too.
before, but I wasn't too sure. Jim, I was the same. Does anyone know? Have we
If
heard?
we have, I don't remember it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
That might be a good Truxperts question.
Where's my notepad? JJ, how do you find? Are you enjoying these kind of like the mystery scenes, the treasure hunter kind of vibe to it? Because it's a very different tone for Discovery.
I do enjoy it. Like I remember in TNG The Chase, I loved that episode because of that vibe that it had. Now I feel we get an entire season of that vibe, which is exciting, and I want to see where they take it. And I just love how creative they're being with everything, and like Stamets, like his. I want to see where the Half-Life thing goes. Like, yeah, there's all these little clues that just like keep me like hooked, right? I want to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, exactly, and it's because normally you get this big question, which is something usually destructive, right? There's something happening, which is the burn and the DMA, and it's like, it's disaster. But this is more. I mean, of course there's with Mole and Locke, like there is an element of danger to it because we need to get to it before the bad guys do. But there's the sense of adventure is what is really building. Peter, what's your preference? Do you like the more like immediate life-threatening danger, or this more kind of, hey, come on, Indiana Jones, we're off on an adventure kind of vibe?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely like the latter, and that's why I'm enjoying season 5. And I could actually see it being my favorite season if it continues this style. I could see that being my favorite of the discoveries. And actually, one thing I enjoy. I actually like. I used to play video games a lot, and Uncharted was one of the sort of an Indiana Jones type, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, and so that watching these episodes kind of reminds me a little of that type of treasure hunting. And you have the exposition scene, and you have sort of the clues that go from one to the other step, and you work your way through the puzzle. You have your antagonists, and they try to stop you, and you kind of keep moving along. So, I think. Definitely, I think part of why we may like this is because of the experience with 3 and 4, in which the seasons were kind of similar type stories. So here is something different, and all for it.
So it's, and do we feel does it feel very Trek or not, Matt? So is this, because the whole thing's kind of like a sequel to The Chase, the TNG episode, but Is what we're getting, does it feel very Trek, or does it still feel like a whole new dimension of Trek that we haven't seen before, which is what Discovery's always kind of angled at?
I would have to agree with you in the sense that, yeah, I do think it's a whole new direction for Trek to go, because thinking about Discovery as a whole, and this is only a realization that I've come to, I think it was probably post Picard, trying to figure out what was the thematic thread with all the Picard seasons, the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only after that, and kind of for myself defining a journey for Picard, realizing that, and I'm so glad Amy came right back at this very moment. We were just on the cruise, and you were there, and you observed how much the Ken Mitchell Connect thing impacted me. Discovery now in this season, which was filmed and written and shot before his passing, probably before, maybe before he did his rave on the boat. That this whole show has been about connecting, and how in the series, when I say show, and when Burnham said to to Rayner, connection is not a skill, it's a choice. And that, I feel, is new in terms of all of Trek. Because even as intimately as we got to experience, for example, TNG, DS9, and Voyager, maybe Voyager came the closest. I don't know. We can talk about that later. But Discovery is the personification is a loaded word, but I think it's the best word I can say in this moment for Trek Connect.
Yeah.
As a thought.
Can I jump in?
Of
and
course.
it's going to go off, and what they're doing is showing us connecting and teaching us how to connect. Like what you called out, Davey, with Adira and Gray, when Gray was like, we can be a different relationship. When I saw that, I'm like, this is how I end all of my second dates. And I'm not being funny, but it's like, yeah, we don't have to be this way because I'm not feeling it. Can we develop into a different kind of relationship? I don't need it to be intimate or sexual. I want this. And they're showing us that's how we can do that. And between Saru and Tarina, they're teaching us how to connect. Saru made a mistake. She's like, I accept your apology. Now let's move on. People don't know how to do that. And we are getting this expert relationship, how to connect 101 with Discovery.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of theme is throughout the episode, especially with the Rayner kind of subplot. And there was all the subplots were about that. Rayner connecting with the crew, which made me sing Connect to Your Crew from Subspace Rhapsody in my head the whole time. you had Saru, you had Adira and Gray.
Yeah.
And there's even this element of Book and Michael learning to be friends post being lovers as well. And how do we feel about Book's sort of continued inclusion, right? Because sometimes it can feel it's a little interesting, right? Because he's just kind of there, and it's like, oh well, I know. I used to be a courier, so I know the bad guy. And like, oh, I think I should just come on the away mission with you. Oh, okay. Why
What was his title? What did he give himself?
Yeah, because
some associate or something.
Yeah. Bix kept referring to as like, oh, come on, associate.
Yes.
I just want to point out that there was an interesting comment just made in the chat, which I think is something that I've thought as well. Now, Matthew Dempsey says, it's so interesting how this season thus far feels final. even though they didn't know it would be final. Do you think that they maybe they made it knowing that they're, hey, maybe we might get more, maybe we won't? Matt?
One brief thought. I don't know the answer to your question, Davey. However, I've seen commentary by Michelle Paradise, who's one of the executive producers, where she said, had she known that it was the final, would she have done anything differently in terms of the writing? She said no.
Okay. Interesting.
So
there's
that.
Yeah. JJ, what about you?
But they did go, they did go back once it was announced that Discovery was ending, and did some refilming to tie up some loose ends. So I don't know what that was, and I don't know at what points in the episodes that we haven't even seen that yet, but they did go back and refilm some things.
So of all the subplots that we got, Peter, what was you kind of touched on Raina before? Was there one that really, like, which one did you really kind of get the most out of?
I think the Rainer one was. I mean, there was a lot of different plots in this episode. It's a little bit on the busy because I think there was like 4.
Yeah,
so
there was a lot happening.
Instead of the usual 2, but I think there was 4. But I think of the 4, I think the Rainer one was. I found that interesting. I think part of it is Tilly, trying to orient him to sort of a different way of doing things. I think part of it is also giving the bridge crew, learning about them a little bit more. And then part of, I think with Rainer, it reminded me a little bit of Shaw from Picard season 3. You sort of have that gruff, way of doing things, just speaking their mind, not really adapting, kind of like that type of character. So I think it's interesting that the 2 recent seasons kind of had a similar new characters like that. But Shaw was pretty popular, and I think Rainer's pretty popular. I kind of was seeing how it was coming, and I think it, as we watch the rest of the season, we'll probably see Rainer kind of having his kind of arc, or as he changed and as he becomes a better leader or a better captain, and be an equal member of the crew, just like everybody else is. So I'm kind of curious on how that's going to work out.
I feel like characters like Shaw and Raina, they kind of speak to like when I was single and all the like emotionally detached bad guys I used to date who I was convinced I could change and find their soft gooey middle. This is kind of like fulfilling that fantasy, because you do kind of find their soft gooey middles. And I will, Matthew Dempsey, yes, if Shaw and Jellicoe had a baby, it would be Raina. I love that.
Oh, Matthew.
Well done. Well done.
Well
there might
done,
even be
mate.
a little Ben Maxwell mixed in there too.
Ooh, hot. Okay. So let's dive into, we're now on Trill, and we've done, I forget the name of the ceremony, but there was an episode of Deep Space Nine where they did that's the one, yeah. And there's this, they did the same thing in Deep Space Nine, I remember, because Curzon took Odo's body and didn't want to give it back. I even got some of, Rene Auberjonois' portrayal of Curzon in Wilson Cruz's portrayal of Bix. A little bit more flamboyant, kind of poking fun at everyone a little bit. But maybe,
Makes one wonder if he didn't watch that performance first.
Could be. I mean, Wilson Cruz is a huge fan of the franchise, right? So yeah it's possible that he could have definitely done his research. How do we find it? How do we find this kind of new updated version of the Trill? Like, are we? I don't know, JJ. Are you liking that we're kind of getting more of the Trill lore and who they are, and all these little ceremonies that they do? Because there's a mixture of like fantasy, spiritual, and science when it comes to the Trill. How do you find that?
So it's interesting, right? Because I feel like the Trill, are able to blend like the spiritual side, the science side very well. Like the way they write it, the way they show it, it just feels like it just works, right? As for like, exploring this more, seeing more Trill, yeah, I like that they went back in this episode, right? Because of Adira. I mean, she and Gray, and getting to, finalize that kind of relationship and ending it in the final season. So yeah, I like that. And I liked, I felt like the way they did the ceremony was just very elegant, very spiritual like, and perfect.
And the fact that Bix had been waiting 800 years for an answer to a question. Like Amy, do you feel that they're weaving in this, 800-year mystery that has been, the people who are involved have firmly planted the clues to be found across the universe? Do you feel that's being well executed?
I really do. And every time they talk about it, it just takes me right back to TNG, which I love. And I was thinking about it, and I want to ask you guys. So there were 6 people, right? So just say there's 6 of us right here on the panel. So if I'm step 1, and then all I know is that I'm going to pass it off to Davy, and then Davy, all you know is you're getting it from me and you're passing it off to Matt. So that's all we know. And then Jim's going to end up at the very end where, okay, he's got the last clue that this is the device. And so Jim doesn't know where to start. Do you think that they are that compartmentalized in them passing along these clues?
It's interesting, right? Because it seems like they found the progenitor's technology.
Right.
Now, were they that scared by what they found, by the power of what they found, that they...
That's what I took it to mean.
They hit it. But then if they hit it, then why did they leave the clues behind for where to find it? It's really bizarre, Matt.
Because they have faith in humanity that it will be better, that when whoever does get
When we're
it, they're
ready.
going to use it for good.
Yeah. Go, Matt.
Yes and no. The yes part, I would say, was represented by, Guardian Z's kind of gatekeeper question, where all he knows is the question.
Right.
And then Bix or Jinaal mentioned that the 6 of them devised the hiding of the clues and the clues themselves for someone who was worthy and hoping that species had evolved.
Yeah, but do you think that Jinaal could have said, I'm going to send you to the end because I think you're worthy? That's my question. Does Jinaal only know to give the next clue, or could he have just... I'm just asking. Yeah.
I don't know that answer, but I will say what I did not like is the fact that the next clue literally had a set of coordinates.
Yeah.
The previous clue had a poem and a stanza and spots that you had to interpolate and figure out. And it's like, next week. Didn't like that.
That was a bit lazy. I'll admit that was a bit lazy.
What?
So I think as I've gotten older, I read too much into plots and different elements of things sometimes, right? And Matt Dempsey just pointed out something in the chat that I thought about as well, and that is that little inscription in the side of the rock on Trill had held up very well over 800 years. There was no signs of erosion on that thing.
It held up just as well as the Promelian site in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that where Jinaal ended up, he just pulled that clue out of a random rock. It's like, okay, it was over here. So if they hadn't found him, the entire quest would have fallen apart.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Anyway,
And do you
I
think
don't.
do you think as well that they're also harking back to old school Trek by every on location filming of an alien planet is done in a quarry? Like, Peter,
We should get
have
a
you noticed that?
Yes,
yeah,
the old
yeah,
trope of filming in a Canadian quarry.
yeah.
Because there's very specific piles of rock everywhere and all that. It's like, oh, it's their hunting grounds. It's like, oh, it's probably somewhere where they used to mine nickel. But
Yeah, I think one. I think before the season's over, maybe they'll, one of the future planets will look like, Vasquez rocks from the, arena or from TNG or wherever. Every
so good.
show seems to have filmed at least one episode with that famous location.
they
So
need to.
maybe this will be Discovery's last chance. Yeah.
I'm calling it now. The final episode, they find the progenitor's technology, and it's under Vasquez rocks. That's my prediction. So speaking of, the mystery quarry where they went on the trek, so it kind of made sense that is where Bix chose to hide the clue because of the big, bad, really vicious monsters that just live side by side with the true people in this quarry. I can't remember what they were called, unfortunately, but this was the big action scene of the episode, right? So we had, these cloaking monsters trying to protect their babies. They're flinging stuff. Jim, we talked a little bit about this last week, right? About, whether we appreciate or don't appreciate the big action sequences. How did this one stack up to what we'd seen before, like visually and just in terms of the, the feeling of excitement whilst watching it?
I thought it was a great visual action sequence and just a great film sequence in general. But as far as the story goes, didn't necessarily think it was needed for the story. Although I will admit, after the scene when Burnham asked Jinaal, "Would you have let them kill us?" and he said, "Yes." I did like that part. I did, like, he fully admitted that, like, if it came down to it to keep the technology secure, he would have let Burnham and Buck die.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that's how much the people, the custodians of this secret, believe in it, right? And you're right. It was a very cool kind of little action sequence, and it was nice that there was a lot of action in the first two episodes, and we just kind of.
Yeah, and I also kind of got like vibes from I'm forgetting the name of the episode, but the one with the TNG episode with the Tamarians.
I was thinking the same thing. Shock of the Walls Fell.
Yes.
Darmok.
Thank you.
Yes.
Darmok, thank you.
Darmok.
Yeah, like Picard fighting Picard and the Tamarian captain fighting the alien that can hide itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, Rashid in the chat says that these action sequences are always brilliant. There is always a fabulous cinema-like quality to these big scenes we get in Discovery. Amy, you in the chat last week said you can take or leave it, or something along those lines. What are your thoughts on these big budget action sequences?
This one was more my speed. I thought the animals and the visual effects, like going back to Matt, what you were saying, like CSI, and they're not going to have great shots like we do in this series. Like those, what we could see of those holographic, and such a cool idea. And also when Wilson Cruz was going through that transition, those visual effects around their head, so beautiful. And that just added to them tumbling around and flying through the, not getting hit, and, and their transporter and Booker like jumping and saving Burnham and him getting shot. Like, that's really cool action for me. Not the spaceships, and I don't know. This was just more my speed. I really liked it this week.
It felt more Trek as well, and there's been some call outs in the chat about this too, is because there was a very Trek resolution to the fact that, oh no, Book can't communicate with them because they're blocking him because we've got weapons and they know that we're a threat and they've actually got their babies here, so they put the guns down. All of a sudden they let their guard down as well. But I got to ask, and JJ, I wonder if you have any thoughts on this. How the hell do those instant transporters know where to go?
I was thinking the same thing. Like they hit them in the rocks, and like when are they telling them telepathically? I mean, I don't get it.
It's a little bit like how did like
sensors.
Yeah. I mean, in TNG, like you could communicate by going, okay, Davy to Amy, right? And okay, cool. That must the computer, the Chat GPT of the 24th century must be smart enough to pick up on that and say, all right, he wants to talk to Amy.
Yeah.
I because they were using it so much this episode, I'm like, why the hell would you walk anywhere? Matt, what do you think?
Well, my first thought was, and Amy, I'm curious, and Davey, or all of you on the call, am I the only one who ever had the TNG technical manual in the 90s?
I have it right here, and I know
have it.
Amy's got it within reach as well. On Trexperts, Amy got a whole quiz about the technical manual.
I haven't seen that in 30 years, Amy. But I
now you've seen it twice.
I would love to see the Disco 32nd Century updated version.
Ooh.
For the Crossfield A class, whatever they call it. Anyway,
so
here's
good.
that.
That's so funny that the two hosts have it within reach.
You don't know what's going on behind this camera. I've got I run a quiz show. I need some reference material.
Davey, I will say that's not how I knew 257.4 megahertz from whatever it was on experts. But that book is how I know the Heisenberg compensator or whatever it was for the transporter took you 40,000 kilometers.
There you go. Boom. But yeah, there was a few moments like that with the instant transporters in this episode. Even when Adira gets called to the bridge and just goes, "Bye."
Yeah.
Like, why? But anyway, that is what it is. So we come to the resolution of the whole thing with Jinaal, and there's a really sort of beautiful scene, with the current host, who's just sort of like, this is it for us now. I'm assuming that the symbiote maybe kind of went off to perhaps on its last little swim. But did anyone else, I don't know, Jim, did you find that as beautiful and touching a moment as I did?
Yeah, I liked it too. But then again, I was also thinking, I was also thinking as the antithesis to that, like shortly after that, when they're warned, like, be on the lookout, someone's going to come. Boy, that Trill security is top notch. Because somehow she still got in there anyways.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. She's okay. Now there is some changeling shit going on with Mole and Locke. Okay, like there is something going on there. And I'm like, okay, surely it can't be the Founders again, but maybe it's the what was the character in Star Trek VI who was also a changeling?
Martia?
Wouldn't that be cool if that's who they were related to?
Ooh.
That could be very well, yeah.
Peter, how did you find that little twist at the end? Were you expecting it?
No, I wasn't expecting it with Mal. So I thought it would just sort of end, with the ceremony, everyone kind of part ways, and that was it. So I probably would have expected them to be back, next week in an episode to sort of, they would be away and for one episode and then bring them back. So I was a little bit, it's like, oh, she's back for that last few seconds. But I guess the tracker thing, I don't know exactly what it was she put it on there, but if it is a tracker, then that is kind of a pretty common plot device that gets
It felt
used
like a
in a
cop-out.
lot of different stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you, Matt Dempsey, for reminding me that the changeling in Star Trek 6 was called a comaloid. Comaloid? Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny, right? Like, it's a bit of that kind of twist is a bit of a cliche, but I still clutched my pearls. I was like,
Okay,
Like,
so
they were so confident Troll Security would stop her, and then somehow she gets in there.
Go, Amy.
yeah, so Jim, I was thinking the same thing where it's like, yeah, what about the security? And then I saw the thing go on the blue uniform, and I just did a rewatch and remember when Tilly got the little thing on her blue uniform and then she started seeing people and she went into the womb, like it sort of gave me PTSD. I'm like, oh my gosh, get it off the blue uniform. It just, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Amy, I think it was more Burnham putting the tracker on the, what was it, Trilithium in season 4 with on the OO battle planet, or when they were fighting in the casino. That tracker. That was the one that it triggered for me.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember the one that reminded me was the Star Trek 6, actually, when Spock put the tracker on Kirk. There was a scene in the Undiscovered Country when Spock kind of just put his hand back on Kirk, and Kirk and McCoy ended up, in that Klingon court, and then that's where it gets. Then Spock said, "Oh, we can track them," so that's how they get to come. So so it's a kind of it's like, okay, we go back to that plot device again. So,
Well, it's better than giving your girlfriend jewelry.
Oh, if MC were here, she would love that Kelvin verse reference. Thank you, Amy. So let's talk Easter eggs, because there was a lot. I want to drop in one of my first ones, which I've just thought about, right? Because I was just thinking about the whole, like, okay, cool, why, the conversation we were having earlier about the fact that they've tried to hide this power, right? And Jinaal mentions the Dominion War was raging at the time, right? So
Yes, I love the fact that. Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Davey, but I love the fact that, like, you get during the Dominion War, they get the idea to go after a technology from a species that looks exactly like the species they're fighting in the Dominion War.
Yes. I mean, could there be a link there, Jim? What do you think?
Yeah, I've always thought there was.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I loved hearing about the Dominion War, which I thought was really cool because I loved that we got links to that in Picard as well. Any other Easter eggs that people picked up on? Because there was a few. I know we've touched on a couple already. Amy, you look like you got
Well,
some.
no, I just want to go off what you were thinking, what you were saying, because if the Dominion War, take it back to Picard and the Changeling, and like they saw this time of war. So of course they didn't have faith in humanity at that time. They're like, we have got, because now go look at Picard and the Changeling and Vedic and all of that terribleness. That totally makes sense. That's an Easter egg right there.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
One Easter egg I did pick up on. Did anyone see what Tilly was drinking at the end of the episode?
Sluggo Cola. Yes. That looks
that?
radio. Yeah. In the bar.
Radioactive?
It's not.
Cola.
Sluggo Cola, the slimiest cola in the galaxy.
What is that from?
It's from DS9. It's from the episode where Quark dresses in drag.
Oh my gosh.
It was Nog's favorite drink, wasn't it? Like it was.
Yeah.
A popular drink on Ferenginar. Yeah.
32nd century product placement. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
But I loved how Raynar just comes in and just goes, "Whew, that looks radioactive."
And of course, the bartender was a Ferengi.
Okay, I saw that and I was like, "Is that really?" It was so quick.
It was, but then the Ferengi actually, and I didn't catch the name, but the Ferengi goes, "Welcome to," and says
Reds.
the bar name. Was it
Reds?
Red. Welcome
I
to
didn't
Reds.
think I didn't think his name was Red. I just thought the establishment's name was Red.
I thought maybe it was kind of similar, but yeah. I mean, I'm
Could be both.
I'm not sold on the new on how the Ferengi look in Discovery yet, but it's kind of like half their lobes are being cut off. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
They all look like Zek, like ancient.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have to hand back in my Trexperts quiz card when I say this, but who were the Zangefi?
The Zenkethi were
Zenkethi.
mentioned in DS9. They were mentioned extensively in the books. The Fall series, maybe?
They were never
part of the
seen,
tribe.
but they were supposedly an enemy of the Federation.
Typhon Pack, like those books?
I think it's a Typhon Pack. I think they're one of the members of the Typhon Pack.
Yeah. They were kind of a Breen external, we never knew much about them species.
They were only mentioned in like one episode of DS9. I think it was like the episode where a changeling like sets the Defiant on course to like Zenkethi space to like start a war between the Federation and the
Cisco. I can even hear Avery Cisco saying the name.
Matt Dempsey in the chat is referring to the cat people from the animated series. I don't know if
No.
Oh, they're similar. Zinthi. I believe that's called the
Zinthi.
Zinthi. So they are very similar. I actually kind of mixed them up a little bit.
Or something similar to that.
Another one something else that Matt just brought up, and JJ, I wonder if you've noticed this. The Breen have been casually mentioned about 3 or 4 times in terms of the fact that they are building their military might of sort. Have you noticed that? Do you think we'll see the Breen?
That was to me.
I don't think I did notice that.
No, okay.
Was that in this episode? I didn't think I picked it up.
In the scene where they're sitting with Saru and Relic, where they're sitting around the table, they mention, and they're doing the negotiations, they mention the Breen. Now, it's like the 3rd or 4th time that the Breen has been casually dropped into the conversation and that there's some concern about them.
They said that there was a Breen power struggle, and they weren't sure what was going to happen as the aftermath. But I would say,
I was just going to say no, but then there's another link there, right? Because we've mentioned the Dominion War, and that now we've got the Breen, and that the technology was hidden because the Dominion War was raging.
I think they even mentioned the Tholians once or twice.
They did.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah.
There's some there's some interesting kind of threads being woven here. And
and then also in the Saru plotline, didn't they flip it around from going like Vulcan extremist from like Vulcan logic extremist to like Vulcan purist or something like that?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I took that as the same thing.
I took it as like being an opposite or something.
Yeah, that was interesting. And we haven't really touched on that actually, which was, we haven't really talked too much about what was happening with Saru and how they had that argument, like the Vulcan version of an argument.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, Tarina is Vulcan as Tarina. Oh my God, don't.
She was pissed when she walked out.
She's like, well, when a Vulcan goes that's just illogical and leaves the room. You got your doghouse. You're in the doghouse. Go, Amy.
So, yeah, can we talk about how amazing she is? Because she totally saw through what Saru was trying to do. Well, have you thought about this? And I just want to protect you. What made you think that I needed protection?
Like she knew instantly her aide had talked to him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you talk to Duvin?
Yes. And what I love is that he was logical. Everything that he said, it was complete logic. And so and for her to like already see that logic, this what gives her wisdom is that it's like, yes, there is logic, but have you considered Dubin, you youngin? I mean, I sort of get that now that I'm in my 50s, I get to call you all youngins. Have you considered this option as well, that if I don't reveal, then all my regular people are going to start to not trust me, and their trust is more important. So yes, you do bring up a good point. But do you have the wisdom to take a step back and recognize other logic? Like, that's what I loved about her power and her wisdom, that it's like Devin wasn't wrong, but she saw more to it because of her wisdom, and she's awesome.
Everyone,
Plus, I want to see more
give
of
you
Ambassador
Amy Nelson.
Saru.
Thank you very much. That was
Plus, I want to see more of Ambassador Saru in action. That brief scene we got just wasn't enough.
Yep, you're right.
I mean, Peter, who is the cutest couple in the galaxy, and why is it these two? Like,
Yeah, I would vote for them. Yeah, I would vote for them. I think they have a good, they're learning from each other. They're respectful. They're correcting each other. But I think it's kind of evolved pretty well over the last couple of seasons. So hopefully, want to see how their arc continues, for the rest of the season.
Yes, Matt?
Minor brief aside, is it just me, or during this season did Doug Jones's eyes through the prosthetics do all of the heavy lifting in that acting? It was amazing. When he realized that he pissed off Tarina, those aquamarine fake contacts were like, oh.
What do I do now?
So I'll ask JJ first. JJ, where do you think this arc with Saru goes, though? Right. So, do you have any thoughts on, or could you theorize on how this will feed into the larger plot, or is it just going to be something completely separate?
I feel like it's going to be something completely separate. I kind of feel like we're just seeing a separate, farewell to Saru. But maybe we'll see something more in it. And it does come with, what he's doing with the fact that he's an ambassador, right? Like maybe something comes out about this that, he's able to be the diplomat and solve tensions due to this technology that they're potentially going to find. But I don't know. Be interesting to see.
I agree.
Yeah, because I think Tarina might get involved in the treasure hunt come the end of the season, because I think it's been mentioned in the chat, like maybe there was a hint on Romulus that might have been lost, so somehow it might be something on Vulcan. You never know.
It'll link back to Navarre somehow. All right, so we've got a new episode coming up next week. I believe it's called Face the Strange. So to wrap us up for today, predictions. What happens next? What do we want to see? What do we not want to see? Peter, can I start with you? You kind of giggled then, so I feel like you might have a thought. Do you want to start us off?
But I'll just... Well, the first thing that came into my mind actually is a continuation of the conversation we had about the action scenes that we had today and this episode and last episode. So actually for the next episode, one thing I would not like to see would be actually an action scene, because I actually kind of felt that we could take a little break from that type. I'm not a big fan of that type of action scene, and so it would be okay to do something, maybe, continue sort of exploring whatever planet is the next step on the treasure hunt, and maybe meet another of the scientists, the remaining 5 that we haven't met yet. Get the next puzzle, seeing how Saru and Tarina kind of navigate their relationship, and maybe start planning continue planning their wedding, and sort of moving the momentum along. So yeah.
As someone who's currently planning a wedding, I'd love to see an episode where Saru and Tarina are just touring potential reception venues, and trying the canapes. JJ, what about you? What would you like to and not like to see next?
I think what I would definitely want to see more of is the treasure hunt itself. To see what, I And the thing that I'm like kind of not wanting to see is, I don't know that I'm a fan of Rainer, so I don't know how much more I want to see
Mm-hmm.
of him, but I'm assuming he's probably got a lot more since he's the first officer now. So I think those are my two.
And Jim?
I want to see Owo and Detmer.
I was literally just thinking that. I was like, if no one else says that, I'm saying
plus
it.
I want to see more of Reno.
Yeah, Reno's criminally underused, I think.
I mean, I get why she's underused. I mean, having to do with the actress's health concerns, plus the fact she's one of the most popular comedians in the world. But still, we need more of her.
I know, she's just the best. Like, and she's her one-liners and the friction that she always has with Stamets, and that is pretty amazing. Matt Harker, what's next?
Oh my. I would say I would like to see more development of the relationship between Tilly and Rayner. See that keep going, because Tilly knows how to stop him in his tracks and really tell him about himself. I'd like to see Rayner get to know the crew more. Obviously, we'll see the Serena and Saru relationship, or the wedding, progress. My gut tells me we won't see the actual wedding, until probably episode 8. If I had to guess, they'll probably stretch it out until then. Book and Michael will continue their evolution. I don't know if they'll get back. I don't know if they'll get back together. I hope they do, but I don't know if they will. I think Adira and Gray will figure out what works for them as they both continue to grow in their own way. And I am one of those who really, really, really wants to see Discovery with Zora tie up with Calypso. Star Trek. I'm in that camp.
Amazing.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Actually,
you go.
I'm sorry. I kind of have suspicions maybe for the reshoots that they brought back after they announced the ending of the show, that it kind of links with Calypso. So that maybe end up the tail end of episode 10. That may be almost like an epilogue or something. So I hope so too, because Calypso's my favorite of the short tracks. So I really also hope they connect the two together. But I'm thinking it may be almost like really towards the end, after the sort of the season 5, the treasure hunt part is over, then this could be like an epilogue. So we'll see.
Now, before I throw to Amy to round out the predictions for what's next, I'm just going to say I'm actually on the opposite side of wanting Book and Michael to get back together. I actually would like it if they were talking about the different style of relationships before. I'd actually like it if they could just go from being in an intense relationship to actually just being really close, comfortable friends. Although I doubt I'll get that. Amy, finish us up here. What do you want to see next? What do you not want to see next?
Oh, I don't know what I don't want to see, so I'm just going to say what I do want to see. I definitely want Burnham to come back and set Rayner straight. I gave you a task. This is what it was. Until he totally called him out. It's like, Zora's already doing what you're doing. So our captain is she's got everyone doing their jobs, and she needs you to do your job, and you didn't. So Burnham needs to set him straight. Like, I gave you a task, and what you were doing was duplicating work. We don't have time to be duplicating work. So I want that to happen. I definitely want Booker to figure out what's going on with Maul. I want to see that connection. Is that what's going to turn Maul and Locke to working with them instead of trying to get this for monetary reasons or for power, but to come on our side type of thing? So I was really curious about that connection. JJ, I'm with you. Let's go where these coordinates are. Let's get the next clue. That has been super fun. That's where the levity comes in. And I think that's about all that I remembered. That's what I want to see.
The way you kind of put it just then, in terms of just like no duplication of work, and even the way, you know, Michael was like going, have one-on-ones with everyone. For some reason, it felt like I was actually at work in that moment. It's like I'm new in a role and I need to have one-on-ones with my team.
It gave me like, because Riker is over the crew, you know, and like where they belong, and you know, and they would have crew evaluations. Riker and Troy did that all the time. So I was getting that vibe.
One final message from the chat as well, in terms of next week's episode, is that Face the Strange is a lyric from a David Bowie song. I don't know if that's where it's come from. I mean, I've just Googled it. There's a few other references to it, but I don't know if that could be a part of it. Who knows? Who knows? That's all the time we have for today. We have gone a little bit longer because we really needed to have our Kumbaya session about Lower Decks. So thank you for that group healing, everyone. It was much needed. And thank you to our fabulous panel today. You have all been incredible. And thank you to everyone the chat has been going hot. We've had Matthew Dempsey, we've had Cassie, we've had Admiral Funnest Frontier, we've had Haven.
Yay!
Lots of people in the chat.
Oh, hi.
Really having a great time in there. And I'm loving spending my Saturday morning, your Friday evening, discussing Trek. To everyone here on the panel, you are welcome back next week and every week until this season is done. To everyone watching live or listening, remember, you can be on the show too. You can just sign up to be a patron over at patreon.com/BQN. $1. $1 is all it takes, and you actually get to be on the show. Hey, other Patreons, they just give you a shout out. We actually bring you on the show. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So if you'd like to sign up as a patron and be on the show, we send out a link to join us live about half an hour before the show starts. So we'd love to see you. Don't forget as well, the BQN is everywhere. We're really having fun in our Discord at the moment. Everyone here on this panel is on the Discord. There is a link to it in the episode description. Join us. We have snacks. It's great fun, and there is so much good banter, chat, memes. The BQN Fitness Challenge. Whoever thought Star Trek could actually help you get out and moving? I've been riding my bike to work every day just to beat Amy.
Oh, I know. Just today,
right now I'm
me.
beating both of you.
What?
Last I checked.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Jim,
controversial. I need to go run around the block after this.
Oh my gosh, Jim! He overtook you, David.
I'm outraged. Before we wrap up,
man.
can I check let's do a quick round of where everyone can find you online, and let me start with the fabulous Amy Nelson.
Oh my goodness, big screen. Well, listen, I'm on Discord, and that's my new favorite place. So Amy Nelson 522. You can hear me on All Good Things, Union Federation, and join that patron, because there's Amy's Math Moments, and we just had one about triangulation.
Beautiful. Thank you. And it's so good to have All Good Things back, by the way. We loved having the view screen, but listening to you and Kelvin and Mark and Christos, one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you.
Matt Harker, where can everyone find you?
Oh, you can find me on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and X at mhark, HARK 957. The Federation Facebook group, the Discord of BQN, as well as the Discord of Strange New Pod, and the chat on Strange New Pod every Thursday night.
Thank you. Yes, love heading over to Strange New Pod. And Matt gave us a tip. Apparently, The chat was hot on Strange New Pod this week, so I am heading over to check that episode out immediately after this finishes.
It was a doozy.
Jim, how about you? Where could everyone find you?
I'm on multiple socials. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Discord, and I'm on Blue Sky.
Amazing, thank you. And JJ?
On Facebook at Jenadiah, and I have my own website, jenadiah.com.
Beautiful. And last but not least, Peter.
Hi, I'm on X and Blue Sky and Mastodon. It's at Peter Trek 1, the number 1. I'm also the host of the Trek Book Club on X, where we discuss Trek books approximately once every 6 weeks over a weekend. And for that, you can go to at Trek Book Club on X.
That is so cool. I was literally thinking this morning as to whether there is like an online Trek book club out there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Check it out. We actually coincidentally we're discussing this weekend the Star Trek TOS novel, The Lost Years is the McCoy.
I know the one. Yep.
Kirk, Spock, McCoy book between TOS to TMP. So it's sort of it's The Lost Years, I think. So we'll be talking there, but it's all asynchronous. So just sort of drop in and follow at Trek Book Club or the hashtag Trek Book Club, and you'll get more information about that. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you all again. Cannot wait for next week. This season is just building. This show is building. I am having so much fun. But that's it for now. Live long and prosper, everyone. And peace out until we meet again. See you later.